Hey everyone and welcome to Storytime. My name is Jake and today we are going to be looking at the subreddit r/prorevenge, where people tell us their best stories on when they got revenge on someone or something they didn't like. If you're new around here, please do hit subscribe down below so that you never miss out on another video. But for now, let's sit back, relax and enjoy some pro-revenge stories. You have run out of Amulfax Shuffle Time. This isn't my story, it's my father's, but I'm posting this on his behalf. Decades ago, my father was studying computer engineering in America, and he was damn good at it too. He got his PhD, and from looking at the pattern recognition work he did to get it, I can say that he is part of the foundation that allows for tech like facial recognition and similar. Anyway, at the time he was working his master's degree, and for some reason, his university hired/called in a PhD from China to lecture and assist in some work. This guy was 10 out of 10 douchebag. Nobody liked him, and the only thing he ever did was rub his PhD in your face, because if you only had a bachelor's, then you were below him. This guy would disrupt things, cut you off constantly, dismiss your opinions, etc. At some point, my father and his friends got sick of this. So they developed a simple, yet infuriating plan to put the guy in his place. One day, the guy goes to log into the uni system, only to be met with a message saying, "Error, you have run out of Amulfax Shuffle Time. Please contact your local administrator." Of course, my father and his friends were the go-to people for this issue, so this man had to humble up and go ask my father what this error was, as he had no clue what Amulfax Shuffle Time was. Nobody did, it didn't exist. Anyway, my father smiles at the guy and says, "Ah yes, our systems run on Amulfax Shuffle Time. If you want more, you'll have to fill in form 27B/6. For those of you who don't recognize that reference, Form 27B6 is from the movie Brazil, where a man was told to threaten people with this seemingly non-existent joke form. People who weren't aware of the trick would back off when asked about whether they had first filled this form. Anyway, the guy had to read through and fill in a couple of pages of this falsified form, after which he was awarded a couple more hours of Amulfax Shuffle Time. This continued on for months, before the guy finally got sick of having to fill out the form over and over again, dropping what he was doing so he could get more time on the university's computers. So he decided to refer to the manual on Amulfax Shuffle Time. My dad tells me that you could access manuals to things like this by typing something in the command prompt, or something like that. Anyway, little did he know that my dad had gone ahead and written a full manual on Amulfaxitivity with like 100 pages that he just didn't have the patience to look through and study in detail. So this guy had to keep dealing with it day in, day out for a long time, having to do this annoyingly painstaking task for every few hours he spent on the computer. Eventually, my dad decided that the guy probably suffered enough, and the experience did seem to humble him enough to accept my dad's offer to grab a drink when they were free. They chatted like mates for a bit before my dad brought up Amulfax Shuffle Time, and they laughed about it, and then offered to give him some permanent shuffle time. Throughout all of it, the guy never suspected a thing, and unless he browses Reddit, he probably never will. I find it kind of funny how this guy has a PhD and he's like, "Oh, I'm better than you, I'm smarter than you." And then he's like, "What's Amulfax Shuffle Time?" Karen tries to withhold benefits and doesn't like the consequences. I used to have a Veterans Disability Pension, or VDP, for a hearing defect. It's now merged with my state pension. It was small and back home and was paid annually. However, I moved to the UK, and this pension was still paid by my government, but now administered by the UK DWP, the Department of Work and Pensions, who paid it fortnightly. Some years ago, I was entitled to a disability allowance, or DA, because of various issues. At the time, I was diagnosed with diabetes, but was trying to control it with a diet. So, I got called into a local job centre for an interview. Unfortunately, I had a Karen for an interviewer. I'm on the spectrum, but I'm high functioning. This means that I don't suffer fools gladly, and I can be very rules bound. Firstly, she questions why I hadn't declared the VDP as part of my earnings. I had, but it was in another part of the form. Then, she said that I couldn't have diabetes because I wasn't taking any medicine, and as I was telling porkies, she would not allow my claim. Now, the disability allowance claim had nothing to do with my diabetes. However, she was stupid to put in her letter of rejection that I hadn't diabetes because I wasn't taking any medicine for it. She also said that she would no longer pay my VDP. I sent a copy of the letter to my High Commission, who said, "Don't worry, they will deal with it." I handed a copy of the letter to my doctor, who was incensed. She complained to the DWP asking about Karen's medical qualifications. So, I got asked to have another interview about 1 PM on a certain day with the Karen. I said that I couldn't guarantee to attend on that day, as I had another appointment that morning. The message back from Karen was if I didn't attend, my claim would be refused. So, going with the flow, I said that I would try to attend, but I might be a little late. So, I have my morning appointment, go home, change, and toddle off to the job centre. I get there on the dot of 1 PM, only to find that the Karen had booked an interview room on the first floor, instead of the ground floor. There is no lift. To cut a long story short, it took me nearly 15 minutes to haul my sorry butt up those stairs, in the end being helped by this guy in the suit who asked why I was trying to get to the first floor. I told him that I had an interview and that the Karen who was seeing me chose the room. So I get to the room and Karen says, "You are late. I am refusing your claim unless you have a very good reason." So I said to her, "Well, my day has been interesting. You were warned that I had an appointment this morning and because of it I might be late. I want you to tell me about this appointment and exactly what happened to make you late." I then explained to Karen all the explicit things that had happened to me at my appointment. She was not impressed. "How dare you talk such filth in front of me? Your case is closed." The suit guy, who was listening out of sight, "Excuse me, Karen, but did you ask him to tell you about his appointment and exactly what happened to make him late?" The suit guy to me, "How did your prostate examination go?" "More tests, unfortunately." "And was that the reason you were late?" "No, this woman was being vindictive and interviewed me on this floor instead of the ground floor. She knew my claim was because I had breathing problems and couldn't climb stairs. I think she would have claimed that as I made it to the first floor I was lying and refused the claim." "I think you are right." The suit guy to Karen, "You will approve his DLA claim as I had to help him up the stairs, and based on my observations, he qualifies. And you and your manager will report to me tomorrow at 9 AM in my office to explain your actions. If you are late, you will be terminated." Karen, very white-faced, "Yes sir." Turns out he was an area director that the DWP had sent to investigate the high level of complaints about that job centre. It also turns out that a complaint from a High Commissioner about a breaching an international agreement is a big deal for the DWP. Who knew? Oh, it would be so amazing if that area director booked their meeting on like the 100th floor or something, and all the lifts had to be out of use, by the way. Contractor screws me out of $1,500. Good luck finding someone else to do the work. I got hosed by a residential construction contractor years ago. We'll call him Mark. I'd done 3 projects for Mark prior to this one and had no issues. For this project, Mark wanted plans for a remodel and add-on based on some photos and hand sketches. It was about $1,500 in work, which was a lot at the time. I delivered the first draft. Mark was quite happy with the result and would be consulting with the client over revisions or acceptance. He said he would get back to me as soon as he had some news about the project. Typically, I would just run a tab on something like this, as there is no limit on revisions and updates until the project is finalized. Everyone understood that the meter is running when I'm working. In nearly a decade of this line of work, I'd never had any problem with anyone paying. So after delivering the first draft to Mark, I waited on the revisions. It was a pretty decent sized project for me at the time, and I was looking forward to it. I waited and waited and waited. 3 weeks went by. He wasn't returning my calls, so I sent him a bill. 2 days later, Mark called and said he didn't get the job, so wouldn't be paying. Whoa, we didn't have an agreement of me getting paid if he gets paid. I get paid for my time regardless, and never work on a bid arrangement. He still refused, so I told him to take a hike. Also, let some other freelance CAD guys know about him. We were competitors, but there was so much work, we would refer projects to each other if we were overloaded. I resigned myself to losing that money. It wasn't actually money lost, as all I've invested is my time, but that's time I could have spent working on another project that actually paid. My time is where I make my money. I didn't have materials I would mark up or subs I managed. I was a one-guy operation, so yeah, it sucked. 6 months later, Mark calls, all buddy-like with me. He has a big project with a tight deadline and knows I'm the man for it. He's laying it on thick with me too, like I'm a great friend he hadn't talked to in a while, telling me I'm the best at my job and so on. I knew exactly where this was headed, so I played it nice with him, and I'm sure Mark thought it was all water under the bridge. The next day, I sent Mark a bid that was high, about 50% more than my typical rate, tacked $1,500 onto it, and told him I wanted it all up front. Mark called 10 minutes later and wanted to know why the price was so high and payment required up front. Those were not the terms of our previous projects. So I explained to him, as he seemed to be suffering from selective amnesia. Mark starts begging me to do the project. This isn't a bid, he claims. He actually has this project in hand. Mark also is apparently having trouble finding someone to take on this project. Apparently, he'd managed to stiff all the good operators in the area, so he worked his way back to me. I told him I'd be more than happy to take on any project he had once the $1,500 was paid, and all further projects would be paid up front. I never heard from him again. He didn't get that project either, even though he claimed it was locked up. Mark's wife actually owned their business. It had an effeminate name, and they used this woman-owned construction business as a selling point in ads and at trade shows. I guess 2/3 of their clients were landed just on that piece of deception. The wife was mainly just the face of the company and a marketing point. She wasn't involved in the business beyond that. So when Mark started complaining about difficulty getting subs to work with, she started calling around. I heard through the grapevine that she was told off several times. Anyone who has worked with a construction subcontractor knows they can be rather blunt, to say the least. They weren't just screwing the CAD guys, subs in every category had been stiffed. A year later, Mark and his wife were sued by multiple subcontractors and customers. Mark really screwed up a few houses, putting in the wrong flooring, getting paint schemes wrong, and so on. They lost these court cases and tried to get out of it by filing bankruptcy. They got a few dismissed, but not all of them. Last I heard, they got divorced, and he was stuck with a lot of the debt because she was able to prove she wasn't involved in some of the decisions. But she had some debt too. I like to think I got the ball rolling when I let some other subs know about their shady practices. Hey, I mean, the guy's out $1,500, which does suck, but I think Mark might have got it a bit worse. Hey everyone, I hope you all had a really good day and that you enjoyed that video. If you want to check out some other videos, then click on screen right now, or check out the playlist down below. If you enjoyed that video, then please do leave a like, and if you want to submit your own stories, then you can do so by joining the Discord in the top link in the description. But thank you so much for watching, and I will see you very soon.